you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy, and we are less than 24 hours away from the NHL Trade Deadline tomorrow at 3 p.m. However, Pierre, we pretty much had Trade Deadline Chapter 1 yesterday. What a frenzy of moves as the night, got underway right around dinner time. You're texting me like, what is this going on with Hanifin? And that is the biggest move last night. Noah Hanifin dealt from the Calgary Flames to the Vegas Golden Knights in a package that I think some and maybe a lot in Calgary right now are looking at and wondering why couldn't General Manager Craig Conroy get more than that. But we'll get into that and more in a bit with Sportsnet Flames beat writer and analyst Eric Francis will be joining us shortly here on the Eye Test. But Pierre, just your take on that trade, and then we'll kind of do some rapid reaction to some of the other ones there. But your take on the big one.
Before I answer that, I just want to explain the background noise that you're hearing. I am in a rink. I am watching the Cornell women practice right now before they play tomorrow against Colgate in the ECAC Final Four. Clarkson and St. Lawrence are here as well. I've had the chance to spend the entire day at the rink with all these great women's teams, and the spirit of cooperation and how much passion these women have to help grow the game has been phenomenal to watch, Jimmy. I'm telling you right now, the level of play is so enhanced, and I really believe a big part of it is elite coaching, number one, but the passion of the players, number two. It's tremendous to witness it. It really is.
That's great, Pete. I wonder, too, just so you've been talking to a lot of these players, the coaches, what's been the buzz about the PWHL and what now that might present for these women's futures?
A lot, and a really good question. It used to be when I first started really covering the women's game. I've been involved with women's hockey since 1985 when I was coaching the women's hockey school at Babson College in Boston. So I've seen the game go from there to where it is now. The first Olympics I was ever part of it with the women's side was 2002 in Salt Lake City. And that's when the Canadians, after losing in 98, won, and Haley Wickenheiser had just an amazing post-game speech to Don Cherry and Ron McLean on Hockey Night in Canada. It really was. It was amazing. Yep. And then, you see 2006 in Torino, and then 2010 in Vancouver, which was amazing drama, and then 2014 in Sochi, and then 2018 in Pyeongchang. I've seen them all. The game has changed so much. And the female trailblazers that were part of that 98 Olympics have helped really make it what it is today. But what blows me away, Jimmy, the level of coaching and how coachable the players truly are. And that's why their sport continues to grow. The commitment and coachability of these players is fantastic.
That's great. And want to remind our listeners, too, tomorrow we are doing a trade deadline special. So no on-campus Friday, but next week we will really ramp it up with all the Hockey East playoffs, the Hockey East, ECAC, all the conferences getting going really in earnest with their conference tournaments and then heading into the NCAA tournament. So we will have that covered for you next week. But again, tomorrow, 11 a.m., mark the time. They're not our usual 4 p.m. Eastern. It will be 11 a.m. Eastern. The trade deadline special here on the Eye Test. Moves will still be coming in. We'll break as much as we can. We'll analyze as much as we can. And we'll have a lot of fun, of course, with our friends over here in the comments section and the questions section as well. But Pierre, back to that deal, that Hanifin deal. Look, I won't be the first to say I know anything about the defenseman that's been in the AHL that Calgary got there, so I'm not going to try and judge that. But from just looking at it on paper, I just don't feel like the Calgary Flames got enough for Noah Hanifin.
There are a lot of people around the NHL that are saying, wow, that's an interesting deal. They're not saying whether it's pro one way or pro the other way. All they're saying is Vegas got a heck of a player, and they're going to be a tough out because of that. Yeah. That doesn't mean that what Calgary got long-term isn't going to be good. This is if this is actually a long-term deal for Calgary, which I have to believe it is, we won't know what the compensation is for probably 3 or 4 years. But before those 3 or 4 years are up, Vegas could have a chance to win the cup again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to tell you. And and unless Hanifin doesn't sign there, he's going to be a big part of it. So it's kind of an interesting deal.
And Pierre, we've been saying here, after they went out and they made their first move, everyone just kind of looked away and said, okay, well, they're not going all in. They got Anthony Manther. It's a good, solid move, but they're not doing anything huge. And we've been saying, no, keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on Brad McCrimmon. He's got some cap space to work with. And he's, as we've said numerous times, he is ruthless. And I think any NHL fan would want him to be the GM of their team because he does whatever it takes, whatever is in his power to win the Stanley Cup. And he strikes again. And Pierre, I'm going to say it now, I don't think he's done yet. I really don't.
He might not be. It's interesting to see, and you'd have to really do a breakdown mathematically. How much money Philadelphia took on, how much money Calgary took on, how much money, obviously, Vegas has to take on. You talked about Kelly, and he was kind enough to come on the eye test, and I thought his segment was phenomenal. It was great because he told the truth.
He did, and he foreshadowed a lot of this.
He did, 100% he did. And remember, he was dealing with the Mark Stone situation then, too, which was a breaking story when he came on and did it with us. Yep. What I will say about Kelly, because he is a man of honor, Mr. Foley and George McPhee have his back. And when you're a GM, it's way easier to do those kinds of things and make those kinds of deals if the president and the owner have your back.
Yep.
And they have a well-functioning, perfect machine there because Mr. Foley and George McPhee support the GM.
Yeah. And Pierre, we said it here before. I kind of went on a little rant. I won't go that long about it right now, but I'm just not for the narrative that they're cheating or whatever because they're using that cap space from Mark Stone. I just want to ask people out there, if they were cheating, so are you telling me that did Kelly McCrimmon lacerate Mark Stone's spleen? Was that him that did that? Because I thought it happened in a hockey game. I mean, this is crazy. Enough of this. He's just doing what other GMs haven't found a way to do. And he's within his right. He's within the legalities of the CBA to do it. And good on him. I got to watch the New England Patriots here, Pierre, for 20 years. Are you telling me the Patriots would have ever had a dynasty if Bill Belichick wasn't like that and didn't find every little loophole he could and didn't do anything he could to win? No, they wouldn't have. And so, that's what you got to do. And if your team's GM isn't doing that, look at him. Don't look at Kelly McCrimmon. Can
I just say one thing? This is a team that the centerpiece of their team was Marc-Andre Fleury. When they drafted him from Pittsburgh, okay? He was the face of the franchise. The first year, they go to the Stanley Cup final. They lose heartbreakingly, obviously, to Washington. For them, it was a great win for the Capitals and their fans. And Braden Holtby deserves a ton of credit. I think it was in Game 2 when he made this unbelievable save that really allowed them to start to swim in the final. But I would tell you this right now. When they thought that Marc-Andre Fleury wasn't going to be their A-level goalie, they brought in Robin Leonard.
Yep.
Okay, I was there in Edmonton. Trust me.
Yep.
And you know what was great about it? Marc-Andre was a superhero the way he handled that whole thing.
Oh, he is. He's pure class.
I spent a ton of time with him, Jimmy. I'm telling you. I was so impressed by the way. So don't tell me about how they're cheating the system. No, you know what they're doing? They're outthinking the system.
Exactly.
And they are lethal. If they think somebody who they like isn't good enough for them anymore, they will move on. And they tell them, don't take it personal. We're just trying to win. And so that's what they're about. And I respect that.
And I do.
Some people may think it's draconian, and some people may think it's harsh, and some people may think it's really mean. Welcome to pro sports.
And welcome to hockey. That is what it is. So we'll get back to, I want to talk about Hanifin, how he fits there because, man, such a perfect fit. But let's bring in Eric Francis right now from Sportsnet joining us. He's been on top of all this. We'll go way back until when they were moving Zadorov. It's just he's been a busy man this year. Eric, have you gotten any sleep?
It's a really good question. No, not a whole lot of it. It's it's a pretty rare thing. You guys both know, it's a pretty rare thing where the Calgary Flames are grabbing even a tiny sliver of the NHL spotlight. It's all going to disappear on Saturday. So I'm just enjoying it while it lasts. Because on Saturday they go back to being persona non grata for another 5 years.
Hey, Jimmy, Eric's not telling you. He's in Tampa right now. He's been sleeping, but he's been sleeping by the pool. Look at the color on his face. Come on.
I tried to keep it dark in here so you couldn't tell. Yeah.
Good stuff, Eric. So let's go into what happened last night, and then we'll kind of work our way back to some of the other moves. Did you sense this coming on at any point yesterday before it happened that they were in on Hanifin, that Vegas was in on Hanifin, and that maybe they had taken the lead as the front runner?
No, I can't say that I did. We're here in Tampa. The big joke was that the Flames were giving them a free lift here so that they could just leave them here for tonight's game or after the game, or bringing them to Sunrise where we play on Sunday or Saturday. The Flames are playing, and thought maybe he'd end up with the Panthers. But I just caught the tail end of what you guys were talking about. I mean, it's just amazing, isn't it? When there's a big name up for grabs, the Vegas Golden Knights just say, well, we got to get that guy. And he was the biggest, I guess you could argue him or Gensel, but definitely as a defenseman, he was the biggest name, up for grabs by a mile at the trade deadline, because also you could sign this guy potentially for another 8 years. Like, it's just 7 years now that 8 years, because they control him. So, and I have very little doubt that'll happen. I mean, I still think, I got to know Noah pretty well over the years. A good Boston kid, and I know that he would love to play with the Boston Bruins one day. I don't know if that could ever be a fit, given their cap situation. But Tampa, Florida, Vegas, and Boston, all I think would be front runners for his services this summer if he gets that far. I got a feeling, boys, this is going to work out really nicely. And as someone who's planning on retiring to Summerlin, where the Vegas Golden Knights have their practice facility, I can tell you I'd be stunned if he didn't stay there full time. As a matter of fact, I might rent a room off of him.
Yeah, it's the first time he's ever worked in a no-tax state. I can tell you that right now.
It's going to be nice.
Eric, I got to ask you this. I'm a little surprised after 34 years in the NHL that Calgary traded 2 players to Vancouver, a division rival, earlier this year in Lindholm and Zadorov. They traded another player just last night, obviously down to Vegas, who we've just been talking about, in Noah Hanifin. Are you surprised that they've done all this movement within the division and within the conference?
A little bit, and it goes even further. When they were moving Chris Tanev, the Edmonton Oilers offered a first rounder, which is something that nobody else had offered up, and they turned it down. They say generally it was because the package that they were looking for wasn't quite as good as they got elsewhere, but I also think it's because it's the Edmonton Oilers, and that's going to haunt you for a few years. But listen, I think the reality is the Calgary Flames are not really – they're looking for the best deal possible, first of all, Pierre. But second of all, I think that the reality is this team's not going to be a really competitive team for the next 2, 3, 4 years until they get that new arena built. That's kind of their target right now. And they want to try and make this a retool, a hybrid rebuild, whatever you want to call it, where they remain competitive for the next 3 or 4 years. But you guys know what a tightrope that is to walk. Yeah. And, I think they'll probably end up still being a team that maybe stays into a playoff race for the next 2 or 3 years, just like this year, where they'll drop out in the next week or two unofficially. And that'll be good enough, because they don't want to have a total losing culture where they build it, tear it right down. In the division, that's going to be painful for fans to see with regularity, but I don't think it matters in the big scheme of things, because they're not going to be competing for playoff spots with those teams.
Eric, one name that we've constantly heard too, coming from the Calgary Flames, it could be dealt, and it seemed like it was really close with the New Jersey Devils, is obviously goalie Jacob Markstrom. I just read that he's slated to start tonight. I would imagine if there was anything burning with him, they wouldn't be letting him play tonight. Do you think is it safe to assume that he's going to remain with the Calgary Flames past 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow?
Yeah, I kind of thought that we were past that. I was surprised that people thought that was news today, that he was starting tonight. But I guess, everybody's hungry to keep guys in the mix for a potential trade. We got to get clicks tomorrow. We got to get eyeballs on us. So, no, that ship had sailed. They came, however close they came to making a deal with New Jersey. That's something I think they're going to revisit in the summer. And quite frankly, I think that's the better time to trade him. Look, first of all, if you keep him, you keep your team on the fringes of a playoff race for a little while, because he's unquestionably the only reason. He's the biggest reason they're still in a playoff race. He's their MVP. Second of all, there was only one team that was really seriously interested in him. Pierre, it's tough to get a bidding war going when there's only one team involved.
Yeah.
So wait till the summer when 4 or 5 teams that lose in the first or second round say, man, if we only had a proven veteran goaltender, we could have maybe won in that first or second round.
Yeah.
Jacob Markstrom is up for grabs. Then you get a bidding war going. I think there's no question he's ready to leave. I think the organization's ready to pass on him. And the backdrop of it all, Jimmy, is Calgary Flames have probably the best goalie in the world who's not in the NHL in Dustin Wolf. And they need to make room for this guy to find out if he's the real deal or not. Even if he isn't, they got to give him a couple years to figure that out. So it's time.
I was just going to ask you about Dustin Wolf. And Eric, I know you know this player really well. Is he tall enough to be a starter?
I don't know. It's not so much the height that concerns me, Pierre. It's the weight. Like, there's no chance this kid's over $160. No chance. Yeah. He's like he's smaller than Johnny Gaudreau was. Yeah. And that's tough for a goaltender. So they say he's as technically sound as anybody in pro hockey, and you have to be to overcome that size. He's almost 6 feet, so the height's not too bad, but I get what you're saying. Like, he's UC Saros type frame, but smaller. Yeah. If he was 6'5" and had done what he's done the last 4 years, he's been the top goalie in the league the last 4 years. 2 in the AHL, where he was the MVP last year, and 2 prior to that in the Western Hockey League. Mm-hmm. If he was 6'5" and he'd throw numbers together like that, well, he'd be one of the most sought after players in all of hockey. And I wouldn't be concerned about him at that point. But because of the size, I'm not convinced that next step is something that the Flames should be able to take for granted.
Let me ask you about another player there, Matt Coronado, the kid out of Harvard. He's had a tremendous year numbers-wise with the AHL team. How does that translate? Is he in the plans going forward?
Oh, yeah, big time. This is a real learning year for him. I had a good chat with him this morning. He's going to get in the lineup tonight for the first time in a while.
Yep.
They wanted him to work on his play away from the puck, winning one-on-one battles. But the one thing, Pierre, that he's been able to keep doing in the American Hockey League, even though it's a real blow to to him, he didn't plan on being in the American Hockey League this year. He's still been a guy who generates offense, as you said, in the American Hockey League. As long as he can still produce offense here, whether they go in or not, at least he's got to be around it. If he is, then he's still moving in the right direction. I think that this kid's going to be in NHL for a long time. I think he's a 25, 30 goal scorer. He's just having a hard time kind of getting going off the start.
Jimmy, we're on the same page, Eric and I totally. I watched this kid play a lot. I saw him at the Salisbury School, Chicago Steel, Harvard University. I think he's going to be a real good player and help enhance that rebuild in Calgary.
For sure. How about Connor Zary? What a revelation he's been this year, eh?
Out of nowhere. I shouldn't say out of nowhere. He's a first-round draft pick.
Right.
But, you guys know you don't make the team your first or second year into pro hockey, maybe even your third year. People start seeing shinier new objects that are, coming up, and everybody forgets about the old guys. He had some injuries, but, hey, Craig Conroy said when he was hired, I'm going to give these youngsters a chance. We're going to go with the youth movement and see what we have. Daryl Sutter would not allow that to happen under his watch. His was all about win every night, and that's the only thing that matters. And so they made the change, and Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil, these are 2 guys that were on nobody's radar going into this season. Yep. And I cover the team very closely. I didn't think Craig Conroy will admit to you if you get a couple pops in him, he didn't think this could happen. And he's going to need a few pops after the last couple months he's had.
Or a whiskey.
So, something harder. So I'll get that into him when he's ready to relax and try to look back at it all. I know he's reflected on it and just said, wow, like, where would this team be? They wouldn't be in a playoff race at all.
Yeah.
Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil are on the top line on this team with Nazem Kadri. Kadri deserves a ton of credit for working with these kids and being a leader. And those 2 kids have helped, reinvigorate Nazem Kadri. So it's been a real nice feat. Nobody would have thought that could be the top line either, and it has been.
I was just going to actually go to Kadri there. Good segue. I go back, and Pierre and I love this quote, back in Boston. When they beat Boston 4-1, I believe it was on February 6th, maybe the 8th, who knows. But back in Boston, And they come in, they beat them 4-1, and Cadre's in the dressing room after, and somebody asked, it might have been you. I said, how did you guys come in here and beat the big bad Bruins in the top of the league? And he says, hey, sometimes a pack of hyenas can take down the lion or something to that respect.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's been leading that pack of hyenas, and I've seen him really, like from afar, and you probably see it better close up. Like they're losing key leaders in their dressing room through the trade market. And as they've done this, it seems like he's taken it upon himself to fill that leadership void as much as he can. Am I reading that right?
Oh, you nailed it, Jimmy. Like the scouting report on him forever has been that is a great second line center. And he was instrumental in Colorado winning the Stanley Cup with him as a second line center. But a lot of people said, especially when the Flames signed him to that big deal, he's not a first line center. He's a great second line center, but not a first line center. Well, now that Elias Lindholm's gone, I think he's taken it almost as a personal mission to prove to everyone, you know what?
Yeah.
I am and can be a first line center. He's showing leadership that I'm not really sure I thought he had. I've always thought very highly of the kid. He's always kind of played on the line. He doesn't play on the line anymore. There used to be that snarl to his game that's really disappeared. And I think a lot of people mistake that for an older guy who's got his money and his cup and is just like, yeah, I'll just mail it in from now on. But, man, when he's on the ice, his compete level is still high, and his leadership is very high. And he's their number one center now, and that's a real credit to him because I think, like, I'll put it this way, guys. The first guy I wanted to talk to today after they traded away their final piece, potentially was, did you sign up for this? You still want to be here as part of a rebuild? It's a tough question to ask a guy. Well, it's a tougher question to answer because you want to be diplomatic, but I don't know what the answer is, but he's showing all the right signs so far. They've been depleting this roster, and all he does is get better.
Eric, one of the things that has to happen, and you know this as well as anybody, when you do that to a roster, you have to have a coach that can handle it. And I don't think Daryl Sutter could have handled this. And he's a good friend of mine. I'll qualify that. But I think Ryan Huska is the right guy to do this. I think he's done a fantastic job with your team so far.
I agree. I think the only question going in that I had, he's very cerebral, very measured. He's a communicator, and that's kind of the new age coach, and especially from where we were a year ago with your buddy Daryl. Communication wasn't, Daryl's mantra was keep them off balance so that players never know where they stand. Well, today's coach, or Ryan Huska in particular, says at all times I want every player to know exactly where they stand so they can get better. Or stay on top of their game. He's been, a stabilizing force in an organization that's been in tremendous flux for several months. Well, the whole year. There's been so many. Listen, as a columnist, I just consider this team to be the gift that keeps on giving. There's a new storyline every single day. Yeah. And there's drama, there are rumors, there's all sorts of finger pointing, and this team continues to stay the course. They're not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, but they're making a pretty good run of it. And I give the coach more credit than anybody else in the organization for it.
Yeah. See, Jimmy?
Yep.
Jimmy and I have been talking about this guy for about, a month and a half, Jimmy.
Yep.
When it was dead meat and he was done, he rescued that thing. I've been watching him all your games, and I've been so impressed with the way he carries himself, Eric. I really have been.
And Pierre, as being a coach, I think when you get a team to do that, even if they don't make the playoffs, he's still laying down foundation blocks of confidence in what they're trying to do there going forward. So I think, it's important for a team not to give up like that. And he's helped them in that respect. I think that's going to help so much going forward.
Yeah, we agree.
And I think I wondered, if he was going to be a pushover. Pierre, you've seen this situation. An assistant coach ascends to the coach instead of being the good cop to the coach's bad cop. Now you're not the bad cop, but you're the number one guy in the crosshairs now, and it's a totally different relationship. And most guys fail at that job in the National Hockey League.
I agree.
And I thought that he was going to. I said to him, I think your number one issue is going to be that they're going to think you're a pushover. You're too nice a guy. And he said, yeah, I'm aware that that's probably what they think. But I'm going to make it very clear from day one that there is a standard in this room, and if you don't follow it, there are consequences. And I'm like, oh, okay. I like this little pushback from a guy who I never saw that coming from. So the respect is there. the admiration is there, and the players have acted accordingly.
You've seen the three leaders in the Pacific Division a lot this year. The Vegas Golden Knights, the Edmonton Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks. You're looking at it now as we speak currently. Has your thoughts on who's ahead of who changed at all because of the trades that have been made?
Like it was starting to look like Vegas was sinking, and maybe they were going to be a problem, but they just got reinvigorated with the bell of the ball. And of course, we all know, but come playoff time, miraculously, everybody's going to be healthy again, I'm sure. And so I gotta give it to the defending champs and say they're the team to beat. And it's not just, I'm not just defaulting because they won the cup last year, but this move today, and don't forget, in this trade that they made with the Flames, they've reserved the right to still trade their first rounder for 2025, which is a bizarre. I don't think we've ever seen that condition in a trade. But it sure tells me that they're really damn serious about making one more deal. And forgive me if I don't, as we speak, I don't believe Gensel's been traded because I've been napping over here. No, I'm just kidding. I've been busy working away at a feature on the defenseman that the Flames acquired, who's a really neat story. But anyway, Guentzel hasn't been traded. I still think Vegas is trying to find a way to be in and around that, and which is absolutely unthinkable that they could maybe get the best forward and the best defenseman up for grabs at the deadline. We'll see if it happens.
I thought Guentzel would be heading to Pittsburgh West, Vancouver.
Yeah, and I guess there's still a chance. Guys, I've never proclaimed to be an insider. I don't have intel on exactly who's going where. I'm a storyteller. Once the trades are made, that's when I take over. I'll tell their story.
You're good at the storytelling stuff. You've been doing it a long time, and you're good at it.
Well, you do a great job, Eric. Listen, we appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully you can get a bite to eat before the game here and enjoy the game tonight, all right?
Yeah, you know any good spots in Tampa?
Oh, I know.
Pierre must know. Pierre's the guy to ask.
I know a couple.
We'll talk later, Pierre. Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Good stuff. I appreciate it, Eric.
Great to see you guys. Yeah.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the season. It's Eric Francis from Sportsnet joining us. He is a great writer.
Jimmy, he's amazing. I was just going to say, he's a very good talker. He's an elite writer.
Yeah.
He's an old school writer. He started when he was really young. His mom is a legendary Canadian journalist. This guy's a big time writer. I'm just telling you,
yes,
he's got a gift. So if you can ever go online and find his work, it's worth it. He's a really talented writer.
He really is. He's done a great job there, and he's ascended up the ladder, and he is there with Sportsnet now. So good for him. Let's open it up, Pierre, because we got to get out of here, both of us, by 4:50. So let's go right to these questions and comments regarding the trade deadline. And by the way, our producer, Sammy, telling us that Tyler Toffoli is being kept out of the lineup tonight due to trade reasons. So he could be on the move. I would expect he's gone by tomorrow at the 3 p.m. deadline. But let's go over there right now. What do we got, guys? Marvin Matthews is a fan of the Habs. I have concerns about players, especially American players, who want to move no tax markets like Vegas and Florida. This does not bode well for the future of Canadian teams. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
it's been going on for a long time. Mm-hmm. I remember when players that were making money in Canada back in the day were making Canadian money and got traded to the States, and it wasn't easy. It was an accounting nightmare. Now everything's, one level. It's all U.S. money. The money of the NHL is U.S. money. It's not going to be easy. Look, that's why I made the comment about Noah Hanifin. He grew up in the great state of Massachusetts. It's called Taxachusetts. The taxes are so high.
I can tell you that.
And then he gets drafted, and he goes, now Alberta's not as high a tax province as Quebec or Ontario or British Columbia, but it's still a Canadian market. So this will be the first time in his career and life that he's going to be living in a no-tax place in Nevada. Yeah. What a windfall.
I know, eh?
Why would you want to leave?
Yeah, I mean, Pierre, look, they have an advantage. There's just no doubt about it, and it's a great point by Marvin. And, I just think other teams are going to have to get creative in that respect and how they orchestrate contracts and stuff to lure free agents in. We'll see. Good luck to them. But I mean, I just, I know Marvin's a Canadians fan, and I wish we could just get some American players up there again. There was a time, Pierre, remember it was between 2008 to 2012, they had some American players coming there and signing. We think of Jonta, right? I was going there, and Hal Gill as well. So we'll see what happens, but it's a tough thing. But, as far as Hanifin goes, and any of these guys that are getting a nice little tax benefit in those no tax states, they should take that extra morning, Pierre, that extra money, and they should say top of the morning to you, because this episode is brought to you by St. Patrick's Day Shavers Manscaped. This word does. Don't chase rainbows. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders in below the kill care. Say goodbye to your clover forest with Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0. Look what I got here in the mail today. There you go.
Nice.
There you go. And I got the T-shirt right here. There you go, Manscaped. And let your confidence shine bright. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com and use the code ITEST for 20% off and free shipping. There you go, Pierre. Manscaped.
Well read by you.
Yeah, there we go. There we go, my friend. Use that extra tax money to stay Manscaped. There you go. We should get a little side deal. We're good at this, Pierre. Manscaped would love us. Let's get back to the questions here. We're running out of time. What do we got? Evan McLaren, what return should Dubas accept for Gensel? I'll let Pierre take this because I have no idea.
I'm going to say an elite prospect, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick, and maybe more. So if Noah Hanifin went for 3 components and money, Gensel's got to be the same at the forward position. And I think the marketplace will bear more for Gensel than for Noah. But I'm not on the inside right now. I'm not in a boardroom making these deals. But anything less than a 3-component deal, I think would be fundamentally flawed for Pittsburgh.
All right. And the other thing I wanted to ask you quick about Gensel before we move on, Pierre, Kevin Weeks last night said that he had heard that one of the trade ideas or proposals that was being discussed would have been a 3-way trade that included the Canucks, the Penguins, and the Bruins that would have saw Gensel go to the Canucks, right? And then Lindholm go to the Bruins and Jake DeBrusk to the Penguins.
Yeah.
All unrestricted free agents. Pierre, I don't know if I can remember the last time I've seen anything like that happen. That would be like an all-time hockey trade. I would have loved it. I thought it would have been fun, but you don't see that often, do you?
Yeah, and the team that would have got Jake, Pittsburgh, they would have been in the deepest trouble. Because if it was all just one for one, I'm going to bet money right now that once free agency kicks in, Jake DeBrusk is going to Alberta.
Oh,
whether he's in Calgary or Edmonton, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter. Now, he hadn't told me that, but I'm just reading the tea leaves and watching the whole thing play out here. Yeah. So, I'm not sure that would – now, maybe it does happen. I'm just not sure it's a real deal.
Yeah, Elliot Friedman today said that he heard maybe it was discussed, but it never really got to her.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like I've been.
We're not shooting anyone down.
I've been in the room when these guys have to do this. Like I've been part of this stuff. It's very complicated. It's easier to talk about it than it is to do it. And so I just don't think that would have panned out, especially for Pittsburgh. It would have been good for Vancouver, and it would have been, I think, really good for Boston. I just don't think it would have been good for Pittsburgh, especially long term.
All right, let's go to the next question. Jeffrey B., were you surprised by lack of movement by Tampa? I'm aware they lack draft picks and assets to make a big swing, but they have deep holes in their defense core that'll only get exposed in the playoffs. I think they're trying. I think they're trying. I just like you nailed it. I mean, you answered the question right there. They don't have the assets right now to do it.
Oh, they're trying. They're really trying. You have to look at the entire package in Tampa and what's happened. So, you go to the final 3 years in a row and you just start leaking players because of unrestricted free agency, because of the salary cap. You just can't keep them all. So Coleman's in Calgary, Goodrow's in New York. You had an expansion with Seattle. Yanni Gord's in Seattle. So you start looking at it. Patrick Maroon's in Minnesota. Zach Bogosian's in Minnesota. You start looking. They can't keep everybody. Killorn's in Anaheim. It's just look at that's what happens when you go to the final once. You're really happy for about 5 years. You go to the final 3 straight years in a row. That's an amazing job done by Tampa Bay. Amazing job. This is the reality of what happens.
You just got to pay the piper eventually. It happens. But I'm just going to say, Pierre, I've said it before to you, and I don't know if I've said it here, but I'll say it here now. Just keep an eye on David Savard. They know him well.
We talked about it.
I could see that being a potential deal, and there's a lot of buzz right now on social media that his name is starting to gain a lot of traction again on the market. It looks like maybe it fallen off. It's starting to gain a lot of traction. But then again, a lot of guys' names are going to gain traction now that we're within 24 hours. So take everything with a grain of salt. All right, next question. Solar Warden. Gentlemen, is there any fire to the smoke around the Chychrun to the Flyers rumors? What have you heard? I have not heard anything. I think Chychrun's name is out there for sure, but I have not heard anything about the Flyers.
I coached his father.
That's right.
Father was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I had Jeff a long time ago, and we got him in a trade with the Flyers when I was in Pittsburgh. And then when I went to Hartford, brought him with me to Hartford. So, I know the family well. I'm a big fan of the father. Jeff's a really good person. Was tough as nails, tough guy. I remember him having a hellacious fight in Calgary one night, and it was not staged. It was a legit Pier 6 brawl.
Pure emotion.
That was a tough fight, I remember. But I wouldn't – you know what? His name's been out there for a while. Chychrun's name's been out there for a while. I think Ottawa's new management team is going to try to do something. I think they want to change the chemistry of the team, and I think they're probably right to do that. And so Chychrun's kind of the new man on campus, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was moved off campus.
Yep, I'm with you on that. And as far as Philly, does his father still live there?
Oh, he lives in Florida, and actually works for the Florida Panthers broadcasts. So he works with Eddie Jovanovski down there. Who's, speaking of great guys, Eddie's Joe.
Jovo.
You know what? I don't think people remember just how good a player that guy was.
He was awesome.
He was a tremendous player. Really good.
Remember him on that 96 team?
Tons of fun to be around.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some good stories. He's a Windsor boy, eh?
Yeah,
Thought so. Yeah. He knows my buddy Jay. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, what's next for Boston? Is it Lindholm or bust for this year? I just don't know what else is out there. Frankie V, meaning Vetrano?
Yeah. He's already been there. Frankie V has. Yep. Don't know. I still think, everybody talks about, well, this guy's not there. There are more players than you think that are available. It's just that the insiders don't know everything. Sometimes teams actually keep stuff hidden. So we'll see how it plays out. But I still think there are players out there.
Yeah. And Eric Francis just texted me there, saying thank you, and said, thank you to you, Pierre, for the kind words. You wanted me to pass that along. So.
Well, I listen, you know me, Jimmy, when I don't like something, and
you're going to tell me.
I tell you. And there's certain guys in the business I really respect, and Eric has done magnificent work. And, when I was a young coach in the league, you go to Calgary. Calgary's a real good team. They'd won the Cup in '89. You go in there, they have Terry Crisp, and then obviously they get Dave King. They have really high-end coaches. They have really high-end players like Joe Nieuwendyk and Al McInnes and Gary Suter, Gary Roberts. It was a hard place to go to.
Oh, yeah.
And it could be, for a young guy like me in the league, it could be very intimidating. And people like Eric Francis and Eric DeHatchik made it less intimidating.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, you do a lot of interviews back then. There wasn't talk radio, but a lot of print interviews, and those guys were gentlemen.
Yeah.
And the way they dealt with everything, I was really appreciative, and I'll never forget that.
I don't mean to sidetrack here. I'll just say it quick too, Pierre. I kind of miss, I came in, the internet was just starting to take off, right? But still, you still had sort of that old feel. Newspapers were still doing well. They weren't folding, unfortunately, like they all are today. And I used to love, the coaches, or whether the scouts, the GMs, guys like you would come and talk a lot to the writers, and you would pick our brains, and it was great. The give and take and the exchange was so great. And now I just feel like all that's sort of lost with the advent of social media and what have you. And just, I guess it's just the access to so much information, right? That they don't necessarily need to pick our brains anymore, but it can't hurt to pick somebody's brain who's there every day.
I'm going to tell you something. Again, being a young coach, you go to Montreal, and you sit down with Pat Hickey or you sit down with Red Fisher, and you talk to those men. Like
you learn a lot.
Yeah, 100%. You could learn a ton. You know, you used to go to Toronto. It was just a murderer's row of great writers and passionate hockey people. Same thing, you know, when you go to Edmonton. Same thing when you go to Vancouver. Same thing when you went to Boston. Yep. You know, it was really – you learned a lot from them. Yeah. And I think they took a lot from you.
You did.
You just had this give and take. You know, and it was
it's kind of disappeared.
There was more trust. There was more trust. There's less trust now. It was just the way it is.
It's what it is. All right, next question. Mitch Balin, could you see guys like Jake Evans gain interest?
I talked about this on Melnick's show, Jimmy, probably 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
I think he's an undervalued asset. I know he doesn't get the goals and the points that everybody wants, but if you look at the role that he plays and how much he helps Montreal, I think there is a value there. You know, his skating is elite. He's an elite skater. He's very good on the penalty kill. Is he a 5-on-5 point producer? No, he's not. No. Can he play an elite shutdown role? Probably not. He's not big enough. But is he a useful player in Oregon? Yes, he is. Yeah,
he's scrappy. Yep. It'd be a great depth player for the playoffs.
He would.
All right. Next question. Sola Warden, if you had to guess, does Loughton get moved? If so, where? We spoke about this yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know now because of what's going on. See, when they put Ryan Johansson on waivers, that tells me they want to keep him in. If you look at their center ice position right now, Couturier is playing in the 4-hole with Morgan Frost obviously doing really well and Scott Lawton doing really well. I'd be surprised, but you don't know. Maybe they get blown out of the water in terms of asset value and they trade them, but I'd say right now, no.
All right, next question. Evan McLaren, Kyprios in the Toronto Star today, demolishing Dubas' record with the Leafs, saying he overpaid for Tavares, Foligno, and O'Reilly and effed up by letting Kadri and Hyman go. Thoughts? I think we're going to both plead the fifth on this one. Cool. All right.
Can I do the Scotty Bowman? Even a fish wouldn't get caught if he kept his mouth shut.
Ask us again in the summer. Maybe we'll revisit that then.
No.
All right.
No. Next. I'm not letting you. Yep. I am not allowing you.
Yep.
If you want this partnership to continue, I am not allowing you.
All right. There you go, boys. The gag order is set when it comes to Kyle Dubas. All right. Next question. Perreault to the Habs. I like the mid-tier upgrade.
Which Perreault?
Oh, that was a trade they did today. Let me pull it up. I don't know their prospects that well, Pierre, but I'll pull it up for you.
I know them both.
With Anaheim.
Yeah, no, I know them. I know both. It's wait and see on both players. I think both guys have an opportunity to be good. I just think it's both guys getting a fresh opportunity to play.
Yeah, Jacob. There we go. Yeah,
that's what I see it being.
Yeah, for sure. And I like sometimes those trades, man.
No, sometimes they work.
You never know. And like years down the road, you're like, remember when nobody noticed that trade? It's fun. All right, next question. Vancouver wants Toffoli back. I would think so.
So that could be more of a bargain than getting Gensel.
Yep.
And so I can tell you right now, I don't think anybody's going to write this. So I'll tell you in advance. Toffoli's relationship with JT Miller is like this, lock solid. JT Miller's an important player there. The one thing to remember, JT's got a contract that's coming due soon. How do you think he feels after they did Elias Pettersson? So if you're a GM and you think you got a chance to make the guy happy, to bring back a guy that could help you, sometimes that smooths everything out, if you know what I mean. And so I can tell you right now, they're smart enough, brain power-wise. Jimmy, I told you this is a term I use with you a lot. Some organizations have heavy-duty horsepower in their front offices. Some don't. The ones that don't, they don't have heavy-duty horsepower because they are afraid for their jobs. The decision makers are. When you're Jimmy Rutherford, you're not afraid for your job. They're going high-octane, heavy-duty horsepower. Somebody internally is going to be whispering to him if he hasn't already figured it out. Okay, we did Pettersson. How do we get JT Miller calm, cool, and collected?
Come on home, Tyler.
So maybe we get one of his buddies that can help us big time and was a good player for us.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Makes a ton of sense. That's why I love having you on this, Pierre, with me. You connect the dots, and that's the key right now at this time of year. All right, we got time for one more question here, and then I got to mention our good friends at Factor. All right, Vincent Jolicoeur. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Probably Jolicoeur. Pierre's got it there. Is Colorado now the Cup favorites? I wanted the Habs to pull a Kirby Dach deal with the Sabres for Middlestat. I think Vegas are the Cup favorites again. I do.
No, I think if Colorado does something really slick at the deadline in terms of a goalie, or maybe a super high-end D-man, which Vegas already got, I think they got a chance to do something good. Talking about Colorado. I personally would not have done the Dach for Middlestat trade.
I wouldn't either. Just
because of the size. If Kirby can stay healthy, Canadians already have a lot of small, slick guys. You can't be 1-2 down the middle, Middlestat and Suzuki. You're not going to be big enough. So, and it's not a knock on Casey, who's a talented kid. It's different. It wouldn't be good enough for the Canadians at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And Evan, we will get to your question you sent on Twitter tomorrow. I just didn't have time to get it into the boys in the production crew.
Did you tell everybody about tomorrow again, just so everybody?
We're going to remind you right now. Tomorrow we are going to be going 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. There you go. March 8th tomorrow for the trade deadline. That'll be our special. We will not be on at 4 o'clock as we usually are. So tomorrow, again, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern right here live. And then, of course, you can watch it afterwards on all your podcast platforms. And when you do watch it afterwards, you should enjoy a little Factor meal. I want to tell you guys about Factor right now, as I do every day. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, you'll be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. So here's what you can do right now. You can go over to factormeals.com/itest50. Again, that's factormeals.com/itest50 and use the code itest50 to get 50% off. Again, the code is itest50 and the website is factormeals.com/itest50 to get 50% off. Pierre, final thoughts as we head into the stretch run of the deadline here. You feeling anything big, or do you think we're going to see more mid-tier moves at this point?
I still think some teams are on the clock. I wonder what LA's thinking right now.
Yep.
I wonder what the Islanders are thinking right now. I wonder what Florida's made some moves. I wonder what Tampa's thinking right now. And how much more pain will some of the Ottawa Senator players feel before the deadline? I have to think that they're going to try to retool stuff there, and how many players are going to be moved out of Pittsburgh. So those are kind of the areas I'm looking at right now.
What about the team I cover?
Boston, it's hard to say, Jimmy, and the only reason why, I think they had their eye on a couple guys, Hanifin, Lindholm. Yeah. They weren't able to get those done. So when that happens, you got to rethink, okay, where do we go next? And how much are we prepared to spend?
Yeah, and you look more depth, I think. I think we're going to see depth moves. Yeah. The guy you've been saying for a while, Pierre, I'm hearing they're looking back, they circle back, and that's Nick Dowd. That's a guy I would keep an eye on.
I know I think what derailed Washington is he got hurt.
Yep.
So that kind of hurt a little bit, and no pun intended, kind of hurt his value. But there's a very valuable asset there that if I were involved with a team that needed depth and penalty killing and energy, he's the guy.
Yep, he's the guy. That's a guy I'd keep an eye on. Well, we want to thank everybody in the comments section for all your questions and your comments. Thank the eye test, my favorite YouTube hour every day. Thanks a lot, Mitch.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
It's ours as well. It's my favorite.
And I apologize for the background noise today. I really do. But this is my I've been at the rink since 7:30 this morning. I'm having a ton of fun watching this.
God bless you, Pierre. Enjoy it. For our production crew, we want to appreciate everything you do back there. And for Pierre McGuire, I am Jimmy Murphy. You have been listening to another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.